Good afternoon, everyone. Yet again, we, the Jewish community of Manchester, along with many other faiths and none, are having to come together to show our solidarity with Israel as it continues to come under attack from the genocidal terrorists of Hamas in Gaza. The most recent attack was unlike anything we have witnessed before. Just over 2 weeks ago, on October the 7th, we saw the murder of more Jews in one day than at any time since the Holocaust. Over 1,400 tortured and murdered by Hamas. Over 3,800 injured by Hamas. And 210 Israelis kidnapped. Babies, children, women and men held hostage by Hamas, all of whom must be released immediately. As the UK Jewish community, we absolutely and unequivocally support Israel's right to self-defense and its right to destroy Hamas. Israel did not want this war, and it is Hamas who has brought this war to both Israel and the innocent civilians of Gaza. Hamas share the same ideology as the Nazis, to murder Jews everywhere, and we thank the UK government and opposition for their steadfast support of Israel. Unlike the baying mobs we have seen across the UK this weekend, calling for the destruction of the only Jewish state in the world and the driving of Jews into the sea, we stand here calling for peace and an end to terror. And what I say loud and clearly to all of you and to all the regular Mancunians who are walking past today is that Hamas is no different to the Manchester Arena terrorist bomber who murdered 22 people 6 years ago. No different at all. We thank those right-minded people up and down the UK who share this belief and who have also stood with our UK Jewish communities as we have witnessed a massive rise in Jew hate from those who live amongst us and who shout loudly on our streets that the brutal murder of Israeli Jews is simply resistance and okay. And we also think that we as British Jews are fair game to be targeted with their hate and violence. A large part of this hate has been stoked by the media with their irresponsible and unobjective reporting of the conflict and the eagerness of the BBC and Sky, along with others, to swallow the claims of Hamas. Their refusal to call them terrorists, their claim that Israel provides all electricity and water to Gaza, when in fact it provides only 50% of the electricity and 10% of the water, and their failure to challenge the chant of from the river to the sea, which means the destruction of the Jewish state, has simply been disgraceful. I know that every single one of you will have felt the same as I. When we watched the disgraceful coverage of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad missile strike on the Al-Ahli hospital on Tuesday night, their skewed and biased coverage of that attack would undoubtedly have led to further attacks against Jews here in the UK. On Thursday night, Meirav Raviv, who has 4 members of her family, her cousin Keren, Keren's 9-year-old son Ohad, and her aunt and uncle from Kibbutz near Oz, being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza, appeared on Sky News with Anna Botting, who has been particularly biased in her commentary, and told her in explicit and emotional terms just how warped their coverage was and reminded her of what happened. These are her words, and I'm sure they sum up exactly how everyone here feels. Yes, I was in contact with them during the attack. I saw your Sky News reports before, and I must tell you, Hamas is ISIS. Don't forget that. Early Saturday morning, 6:30 a.m., a lot of terrorists attacked Israel. They butchered kids, they kidnapped kids, they killed the fathers in front of the kids, and then they kidnapped the kids from my aunt and uncle's kibbutz near Oz, which is only 2 kilometers from the border from Khan Yunis. They took 81 people. The kibbutz is only 350 people. Only 150 people survived from the violence they did. 1,400 Israelis were murdered on Saturday morning, and you are talking about what is happening in Gaza. How dare you? You know that Hamas rules Gaza. Israel has not ruled Gaza for over 18 years. And what did Hamas do with all the money sent to Gaza that Qatar gives them, that Egypt gives them, the help that Israel has provided to them? Rather than taking care of their kids, rather than educating their kids, they are using the money to make weapons and attack Israel. You don't really understand what happened that Saturday morning on the 7th of October. They killed, they burned houses. It's exactly like what happened to Jews in the Holocaust. These are the same stories that I heard, the same evidence that I heard, the same witnesses I heard talk about the Holocaust. And you are talking about the things in Gaza? Instead of taking care of their kids, instead of taking care of the education of their kids, this is what Hamas did. You know, my uncle, who has lived in near Oz for 60 years, used to help people in Gaza get medical care in Israel. And what did they do instead? All the people we employed, who we gave the ability to work and earn for their families in Gaza. And by working in Israel, they were looking and spying on all the kibbutzim, and they came with maps. They knew exactly how many kids there were in each house. The first thing they did was burn the ambulance, so the Israelis won't have a chance to rescue themselves. And they came to several kibbutzim, to villages, and they came to a festival, a peace festival, that had 3,000 people at the festival, loving, caring people, the Nova Festival, an international festival that people were dancing at, and they came and took them and killed them. You know, there is a story of young people who were hiding in a large rubbish bin, and they took their guns and shot every one of them while they were hiding in the bin. What are you talking about? I am telling you again, Hamas is ISIS. It's the problem of all the world. I cannot talk about my own family now. My cousin was killed. He was found on the grass of his kibbutz, and his house was burned down. My aunt and uncle are 78 years old, and my uncle can hardly walk. He needs a stick. And they kidnapped him on his mobility scooter. The terrorists arrived to Nir Oz with a TV team to take pictures to show off they were killing kids. The previous lady who spoke is the mother of the young lady Hamas kidnapped with 2 kids wrapped in a blanket, and they filmed how they kidnapped them to the border. Is that okay? My uncle needs medical care. Who is taking care of him now? Hamas? You know Hamas hide their weapons in hospitals. And the Al-Afli hospital, the missiles were aimed at Israel and landed in their hospital. I know our Air Force. Our Air Force is the most moral Air Force in the world. My son lived in London for 2 years. I cannot believe the English press believe Hamas. It's your problem, exactly like it's our problem. It's ISIS. Hamas are like the Nazis with what they have done. And believe me, I am a peace-loving woman. I am on the left in Israel. I love peace. I want peace. I have developed and worked on many programs, working with and helping Israeli Arabs and Arabs in Gaza. But Hamas are terrorists and not human beings. They don't even behave like animals. I know what happened to the children in the grandparents' house. They came to visit them like children do for the weekend. My cousin Karen was born in Nir Oz. In the last 16 years there were bombings, missiles, all the time from Gaza. Karen texted us that the terrorists came to the kibbutz and they have to talk very quietly. And at 9:58 a.m. was the last message, and that was when they probably took them. You know that they took one kid from the kibbutz and told him, "Do you want to live? So come with us." And they took him from house to house, and he had to call to the people, telling them it was okay and they could come out. And when they came out, the Hamas terrorists shot and killed them. They burnt houses. My cousin's house is burnt. I can show you films, you won't believe it. The whole kibbutz destroyed, and only 150 people survived. And they lived there for more than 60 years. They wanted peace. I know these people. They were peace lovers. They wanted to help the Gazan people. But Hamas does not want to help the Gazan people. And instead of taking money for good things, they are taking it for weapons and missiles. I don't know if my family who are taken are eating and have medicine. Does the 9-month-old baby who was kidnapped have formula? Does he have nappies? You know they took an 85-year-old woman with dementia and made her smile for the cameras. Who does that? Try to be more accurate in your reporting. Incredibly powerful words. And Meirav's story, and those of hundreds of others, must continue to be shared. We must continue to demand, in no uncertain terms, that all the hostages are released now. We must continue to put pressure on our local and national politicians to demand Hamas releases the hostages now. And we must ask our fellow Mancunians, those walking around us today, to help us get them released by also asking their elected representatives to stand on the right side of history and join this fight to get the hostages released now. Together we will overcome this. As the Jewish people have for millennia survived those who wish to destroy us, so now we will emerge victorious. We pray for our brothers and sisters in Israel and for the brave and moral soldiers of the IDF. We stand together. Am Yisrael Chai!